Hi, I'm Danny and these are my Diecast Disasters. In this video, I'll be customizing a Hot Wheels Chevy Nomad to look like a rusty old barn find car. This original Hot Wheels model was released in 1970 and based on a 1955 Chevy Nomad. The retooled version was first released in 1991 and they released it on and off right up until now. This is the 2019 version. It's a nice turquoise colour with some rusty sort of thing going on. Similar to the paint style that was on the Beetle that I recently made into a rat rod. I begin by drilling out the rivets. Here my drill slips and I take a chunk out of the plastic that I'll have to fix later. Some polystripper is brushed on and left for a few minutes to remove the paint. Once the paint has blistered away from the metal, it can be washed off with some water. Next I use a wire brush on my rotary tool to clean up any leftover paint and oxidation off of the casting. Any stubborn remaining paint is easily removed with some steel wool. I now use a sharp, straight bit on my Dremel to carve some rusty pitted areas around the base and sills of the body of the car. To give the appearance that one of the headlights is busted, I use a round burr to hollow one of them out. I begin painting the body of the car with some dry rust effect paint. I thin it down a little for my airbrush and then shoot the car body with a coat. Next I add some burnt umber to my rust effect paint to create a darker shade. I spray a very light speckly coat of this over the rust layer. Next some hull red. This is a dark reddy brown. Another light speckly layer is sprayed on. And now we have a nice complex speckly rusty base texture. I use an old scraggly brush to lightly apply some dark rust texture paint around the pitted areas that I carved and some other areas of the body of the car. The headlights and tail lights on this casting are not super detailed as it is, and I don't want them getting all full of paint, so I paint them with some liquid mask. Excuse the poor focus, the autofocus on my camera just doesn't want to play ball sometimes. I also add a few patches of light and dark rust wash just to add some different tones here and there. Once this had all dried and been given a coat of flat clear, I begin creating a chipped paint job effect. First of all, I brush on some water where I would like the chipping to be. Next I sprinkle on some salt. This will stick to the wet areas. Once I'm happy with my salt application, I leave it to dry for a short while. I'm going to paint the car with these two shades of blue. I first put on a coat of the deep blue, and then a very light coat of the sky blue to simulate faded paint. When my blue coats had dried, I use a brush to scrape off the salt, revealing the rusty textured paint underneath. The masks are peeled away from the lights. These are then detailed with some silver paint. If you go over the lines with your acrylic paints, it's usually easy to remove with a damp brush. I detail the tail lights with Tamiya Clear Red. This is definitely the best looking paint for this job that I have come across. I apply some rust wash around the windows. I also make this run down here and there like water runs. So a more dark rust texture is applied here and there, including the pitted areas. I apply a very small amount of dark wash around the lights just to make them stand out a little. This is another time my camera didn't want to play ball. Moving on to the base, the first step was to repair the little chunk that I cut out of it with the drill. I just do this with a small blob of epoxy putty. Once this had cured, I sprayed the base with a coat of Molotov Silver Dollar rattle can. This will give me a nice tough surface to work on. I roughly mask off the main part of the base, leaving the bumpers out. The bumpers and grille are then painted with a rust effect paint and some washes. Some salt is then applied to these as well. I want to make them look like the chrome is peeling away, revealing the rust underneath. They are given 2 coats of Vallejo metal colour chrome. The masking is removed and the salt brushed away, chipping away some of the chrome paint. The base of the car is painted with rust. A dark wash is applied. This wash looks very dark going on, but it actually dries a lot lighter. I apply a wash in the grille, but I'm careful not to get anywhere else on the chromed areas. The side exhausts are painted with some rust effects. The base is then finished with some weathering powders. The interior was first airbrushed with the deep blue colour. The seat was painted off-white. Next, a soft tone wash. I paint some dark rust texture here and there around the interior. Then some lighter rust effect paint. It is finished with a little dark wash here and there. I'm going to use these old style spokey wheels as they're very similar to some that I've seen on actual photos of old Nomads. The tyres are also not the straightest on some of them, so it will suit an old wreck. I'm going to see if I can get a flat tyre effect, so I hold this one down on the top of my fireplace for a while. It's sort of worked. This is the first time I've tried this, so hopefully in the future I can get some better results. I'm not keen on the red centres of these wheels, so I paint them silver. Next I speckle on some rust effect. They are finished with a wash. The last thing to do before reassembly was to weather the windscreens. Here are our painted and weathered parts ready to be put back together. I used some small balls of epoxy putty pressed in with a watch tool to create some faux rivets to replace the drilled out ones. Once the car had been put back together, I noticed I could see the blue of the interior, so this had to be painted over. The final step to finish this car was to add some dust weathering. This was added mostly to the upper surfaces of the vehicle. I generally fix my weathering layers with a very thin coat of clear. So before we get our finished product up on the turntable for a spin, let's take a look back and be reminded of what we started with. A nice turquoise 2019 Chevy Nomad from Hot Wheels. It already has some rusty ratty style tampos on it, but I'm sure we can do a better job. So let's park our old Nomad up in a damp old barn and throw away the key for 50 years. And here it is, our finished barn find Chevy Nomad. Now realistically rusted with flaking faded paint and chrome bumpers. It also has rusty old exhaust and a flat tyre. So while we take a look at some shots of the car after it has been pulled out of the old barn, I'll just take some time to welcome my new subscribers and say a big thanks to everyone for the great comments and likes on my videos. Thanks heaps everyone. And an extra special thanks to my awesome Patreon supporters, Rob, Dan, Eric and Eileen, Diecast Pirate, and William. Thanks heaps guys, I really appreciate the support. If you'd like to help out and support the channel, you can check out my Patreon page. There'll be a link in the description below. Thanks heaps for watching. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe.